Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my top 24 ranked quarterbacks for fantasy football in 2021. Inside of this video, we're mostly going to be focusing on quarterbacks 13 through 24, as I already dove into quarterbacks 1 through 12 in a video from a couple of weeks ago. So if you want a deep dive on quarterbacks 1 through 12, make sure you check out that video as well, because in this one, we're just going to really be focusing on quarterbacks 13 through 24. So if you guys do end up enjoying this video, you end up having a great time, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below if you are new. I would really appreciate it, and you're going to appreciate it as well, because I'm going to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. So without further ado, let's get into it. Like I kind of said, we're just going to brush over the top 12 and really go in depth with 13 through 24. Now, there has been a change from last video. Ryan Tannehill, who is my quarterback 10, who is on the screen right now, was previously ranked as quarterback 13, so he was not talked about at all in that other video. So once we get to him, when I'm listing these guys off, I will talk about Ryan Tannehill. So my number one ranked quarterback for fantasy football in 2021 is going to be Patrick Mahomes. It's just a whole lot of safety when it comes with ranking Pat Mahomes as the quarterback one. You just know what this Kansas City offense is going to be week in and week out. They have such a loaded offense. They have a great head coach in Andy Reid, and Patrick Mahomes is going to show no signs of regression at such a young age. I love Pat Mahomes this season. I know I made a video where I called Patrick Mahomes technically a bust because I think it is very stupid to draft a quarterback as early as Patrick Mahomes is going, and that is really the only reason why I think Patrick Mahomes is going to have an excellent season again in 2021, and would not be surprised to see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl for the third year in a row. At number 2, we have Josh Allen, followed by Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert at 6. 7 is Russell Wilson. 8, we got Mr. Discount Double Check, Aaron Rodgers. At 9, we got Matthew Stafford. And at 10, we have Ryan Tannehill. Like I said, he was unranked in the last video because that was before the Julio Jones trade. Before Julio Jones came from Atlanta to the Tennessee Titans, I was a bit concerned with Ryan Tannehill. They lost Corey Davis, and while Corey Davis is not necessarily the best wide receiver to ever grace the NFL, he was much better than the rest of the talent they had at the wide receiver position, obviously besides A.J. Brown. So them losing him was kind of a knock on Ryan Tannehill, but obviously adding Julio Jones, one of the better NFL wide receivers playing the game right now, and if you make some type of an argument, you may even say he's one of the better wide receivers of all time in the NFL's history. So Ryan Tannehill obviously gets a big boost from that. I think that the Tennessee Titans offense is going to be moving the ball quite effectively in 2021, so I'm very happy ranking Ryan Tannehill as my quarterback number 10, and I do believe that he has top 5 upside. So now to talk about the guys that we didn't really dive super deep into. At 11, we have Joe Burrow, and at number 12, we have Jalen Hurts, quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. So at 13, we have Tampa Bay Tom Brady. Now, going into last season, Tom Brady was a guy that I was pretty excited about, obviously, going to Tampa Bay. He went from an offense in New England that was really starting to get a lot more run heavy, that was not really letting Tom Brady air the ball out, and they really didn't have that many weapons towards the end of Tom Brady's tenure in New England. But now he's in Tampa Bay with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rob Gronkowski ended up joining him. So this was going to look like a loaded offense, and Tom Brady played so well. Currently coming off the board as underdog ADP pick 99. In 16 games last season, Tampa Bay Tom finished as quarterback number 8 in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues and quarterback 7 in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues, averaging 21.1 4-point per passing touchdown points per game and 27.1 6-point per passing touchdown points per game, meaning from a points per game perspective, he was quarterback 12 in 4-point and quarterback number 10 in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. So Tom Brady, even at his old age of 43 years old, the guy is completely taking all these youngsters on defense, bending them over a table, and relentlessly pounding them with his football knowledge. Tom Brady is not the most athletic quarterback to ever grace the NFL, and he is far from it. But right now, this guy is the greatest quarterback to ever play the fucking game. I hate Tom Brady personally as a Dolphins fan because of all the years of New England raining all hell over my Miami Dolphins. But at the end of the day, you take the bias away for fantasy football. Tom Brady is simply the guy. He is going to have top 12 potential yet again, even with zero rushing ability. A lot of people talk about how for fantasy football, to finish in the top 10, to finish in the top 5, you need to have all of this rushing skill. And frankly, it does not matter for a guy like Tom Brady with such a loaded offense. Again, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, Mike Evans. The running back core is pretty solid as well. And Bruce Arians seems to have figured it all out in Tampa Bay. This is a team that is going to be very good. One of the only worries about Tom Brady, at least for me, is that their defense is so strong that they're going to be able to run the ball a lot later in games. Obviously, assuming Rojo and Leonard Fournette are able to play pretty good, I do think that Tom Brady is easily inside of the top 13 at the quarterback position, and you can even make an argument for if you're talking about safety, you want to be super safe, you're putting the Trojan on, then you go ahead and draft Tom Brady inside of the top 12. Tom Brady's stats last year were pretty solid. He had 610 passing attempts, number 2 ranked at the quarterback position, 4,616 passing yards, third highest at the quarterback position, 40 passing touchdowns, second highest at quarterback, and still only finished as a top 10 quarterback, or top 8 quarterback, I guess, in both formats. And again, while I talked about how you don't necessarily need to be able to rush to finish as a top 5 quarterback, with all these big stats that Brady was putting up, the reason why he didn't finish higher is because the guy is a statue in the pocket, so it does kind of limit his upside. But again, would I be surprised if Tom Brady somehow threw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns? No. So I will continue to rank him inside of the top 13 because, again, he is just super duper safe. I understand one of these years, eventually, the whole train is going to fall off of Tampa Bay Tom Brady. Eventually, it is all going to collapse, but I honestly don't know how you can ever predict it because people have been predicting it for the past like 5-6 years, and he continues to just bend defenses over. At number 14, we have a quarterback that Tom Brady is quite good friends with. Not really, though. The choke king himself, Matty Ice Ice Baby, Matt Ryan of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Matt Ryan did end up getting a downgrade and an upgrade at the exact same time in this offense. In the 2021 NFL Draft, they bring in not Hayden Hurst, obviously, he was there from last year. They bring in tight end Kyle Pitts out of the Florida Gators, and I'm like, God damn, this offense is going to be juicy. Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, Kyle Pitts, and then they say bye-bye to Julio Jones, which kind of makes sense. They want to keep Matt Ryan for at least another season or a couple of seasons. They believe in Matt Ryan, so they're like, fuck it, we're going to have to get rid of Julio Jones to save some money. So I still do think, though, that Matt Ryan does have a lot of upside, as he does basically every single season, with the potential to finish inside of the top 12, and basically every single year gets drafted outside of the top 12 quarterbacks. Current underdog ADP for Matty Ice Ice Baby is 133.9. In 16 games last year, Matt Ryan finished as quarterback number 12 in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues and quarterback number 13 in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues, averaging 17.5 4-point per passing touchdown points per game and 20.8 6-point per passing touchdown points per game. From points per game perspective, he was quarterback 16 in 4-point, tied with Drew Brees, and quarterback 17 in 6-point. So Matt Ryan this season definitely is taking a downward punch from the organization for getting rid of Julio Jones, but I think Kyle Pitts fills a decent void inside of that offense. The biggest upside with Matt Ryan is the fact that this defense for the Atlanta Falcons is complete and utter dog shit. They are softer than dog shit. They are so bad, and that is going to open the door for Matt Ryan to be throwing late in games. If you guys remember last season, against the Dallas Cowboys, the Atlanta Falcons score 7 million points. The defense sucks so bad they let Dak and the Dallas Cowboys win the game. I don't think that the defense will be as bad, right? Because they were so bad last season. But even a slight uptick still means that Matt Ryan is going to be throwing the pigskin late in games, which is very advantageous for the quarterback position. Last year, Mr. Matt Ryan threw the ball number 1 most in the NFL with 626 passing attempts for 4,581 passing yards, 4th highest at the quarterback position, as well as throwing for 26 touchdowns, 12th highest at the quarterback position. Now, just like Tom Brady, Matt Ryan's upside is somewhat limited by the fact that this guy is also a statue in the pocket. He's not going to go out there and bust off a run like Lamar Jackson and stiff arm some pussy-ass defender into the dirt. Matt Ryan is just not that guy, pal. Trust me, you're not that guy. But at the end of the day, Matt Ryan still does have top 12 potential, as he's been relatively healthy throughout his NFL career, knock on wood. Obviously, we don't hope for injuries, and I think with such a bad defense and with Matt Ryan being a pretty solid quarterback, he'll be diving himself back into these games and is going to be putting up some solid garbage points for your roster. At number 15, we have the rookie, the number 1 overall pick, touchdown Jesus, Trevor Lawrence. Mr. Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson, obviously the first overall draft pick in 2021 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, currently coming off the board as underdog pick 120.1. So Trevor Lawrence, obviously, talking about his collegiate stats is basically just ejaculating directly onto the screen. I'll read you guys the numbers, but it's basically useless because everyone knows how good of a quarterback Trevor Lawrence is. 2018, 2019, 2020, over 3,000 passing yards. His completion percentage over 65% every single year. In college, 30 passing touchdowns his freshman year, 36 the next season, and 24 last year. But obviously, that is in less games because they only played in 10 games last season. This guy's a national champion, and this guy also has the upside of doing some rushing ability. In 2019, he rushed for 563 yards and 9 total touchdowns. Last year, just 177 and 8 total touchdowns. Now, I understand that the Jacksonville Jaguars are not the greatest of teams. Obviously, they're not going to be a great team if you get the number 1 overall pick to draft a generational talent in Trevor Lawrence, but Trevor Lawrence does have pretty solid wide receivers to be throwing the rock to. Marvin Jones, baby Chark, baby Chark, and Laviska Shenault, to name the big 3 in that offense. Not necessarily a big 3 like Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James, but they certainly are not some scrubs. And with the fact that, again, a bad defense is going to boost his value because late in games, this guy might be the second coming of Blake Bortles, except for he's an actually talented quarterback. If you guys remember a couple of years ago, maybe 2015, 2016, Blake Bortles and the Jacksonville Jaguars completely suck ass, but Blake Bortles is scoring all these garbage time points. Maybe that's what we see out of Trevor Lawrence. They have the youngest defense, I believe, in the NFL. They were not very good last year defensively, so Trevor Lawrence is going to have that upside again, just like with Matt Ryan, of throwing the ball deeper down in the game to try to crawl their way back into these bad spots in Jacksonville. I expect the team to be relatively bad, but I do think that Trevor Lawrence should be able to have a pretty solid rookie season, and if he does rush the ball for 300, 400, 500 yards, he honestly has top 10 potential going into the 2021 NFL season. At number 16, we have my guy, Tua Tagovailoa of my Miami Dolphins. But before we talk about Tua Tagovailoa, please make sure that if you have ended up enjoying this video thus far, to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, because not only is it free, again, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 fantasy football championship. And while you're down there, if you are new, make sure you hit that like button, and if you're not new, please make sure to do that as well. It helps boost my video in the algorithm so that more people can listen to my beautiful voice, you know. Just the greatest of voices. So please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and hit that like button too. I would really appreciate it. So back into it. No more self-sucking of myself. We got a first round draft pick from last season, the 5th overall pick to my Miami Dolphins, currently coming off the board at underdog ADP 142.9. Now last year we didn't see too much out of Tua Tagovailoa, having 8 starts last season and playing in 10 total games on the season, as finishing as quarterback 31 and 4 point per passing touchdown leagues, and quarterback 30 in 6 point per passing touchdown leagues, averaging 13.5 4 point per passing touchdown points per game and 15.7 6 point per passing touchdown points per game. Quarterback 31 in 4 point per passing touchdown leagues from points per game perspective, as well as in 6 points. So we definitely saw some games out of Tua, but I don't think we saw what Tua really is going into last season. Obviously, Tua Tagovailoa had that surgery going into the offseason, wasn't able to really work too hard in the offseason in training camp, which they didn't even really have. They don't really have preseason last year. They didn't have preseason at all. So it was kind of, all the cards were kind of stacked against Tua Tagovailoa, at least in my opinion, to really have that big season that we all know that Tua Tagovailoa should be capable of based upon his collegiate numbers at Alabama. But obviously, a lot of people aren't too happy with Tua because they didn't see anything when they expected to see a little bit more. Personally, I expected to see a little bit more out of Tua Tagovailoa, but I am willing to kind of brush last season to the side a little bit. Last year, we saw some good games out of the rookie, like up against the Kansas City Chiefs, up against the Arizona Cardinals. This guy was putting up really solid numbers for an NFL quarterback. But then we see other games up against Las Vegas later on in the season when the Dolphins and Brian Flores elect to just bench the motherfucker because he's not taking any shots. And the same thing we see up against Denver. He's just playing all right. He's just dragging his nuts across the floor, and he's just trying to dump the ball off a million times. And that's not how you win a football game. And according to all of the reports coming out of Dolphins camp, is that Tua Tagovailoa is taking more risks, that he's no longer pussyfooting his way up and down the field, just trying to take the safe shots, just trying to move up the field slowly. Now Tua's taking those deep shots. He sees Will Fuller stretch the field, he fucking throws it to him. He sees Devontae Parker making that slant, he throws it to him. He's throwing it to Jalen Waddle all over the field. He's taking these shots. He threw like 5 picks in the first practice during a absolute monsoon, like in the fucking movie 2012, when it's just, everything is just wet as hell in New York City. It's like when I show up, you know what I'm saying? Funny joke, but what I'm saying is that he's playing in this monsoon, he throws like 5 picks, then the next day he throws like 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he's dotting up the defense. And remember, the Dolphins have a great fucking defense that Tua Tagovailoa is practicing against. He's practicing up against one of the best defenses in the NFL. And he's playing good. They add Jalen Waddle in the draft. They bring in Will Fuller. Now, Will Fuller will not be playing the first game of the season because of his suspension that he sustained last year for doing those PEDs, but he will be on the team. And now it's a second year of Tua Tagovailoa. They get rid of Chan Gailey, who completely handcuffed Tua and put Tua down. I think that without Chan Gailey, with this new offensive system, Tua Tagovailoa is going to be unlocked. Unchained. Amazing. I believe Tua will be the guy that we saw in Alabama, and I think a lot of people are going to be very mad and look very stupid that they doubted Tua. I understand why you would doubt him. He did not look very good last year, and I will be honest with you. I believe that. I watch every Dolphins game. I'm a Dolphins fan. I also watch every other fucking game, but I do think that Tua does have a whole lot of upside, and that is why I'm going to be drafting him as a top 16 quarterback. But you don't even have to draft him there because he's just going so much later at pick 142.9. Next up on the docket, we got former quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, now rejoining with Frank Reich, quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, the heir to the Phillip Rivers throne, Carson the Ginger Wentz of the Indianapolis Colts. Last year, Carson Wentz might have been the biggest disappointment ever, but I was not surprised at all because I am one of the biggest Carson Wentz haters. I'm not a Carson Wentz apologist like all these people are talking about how Carson Wentz this, his offense is dick, it's this, it's that. Carson Wentz lost all confidence last season. You just saw it. He was going out there and he looked like he was defeated before the ball was even fucking snapped. It looked like he knew that he was not going to be able to dump the ball off effectively. It looked like he knew that Jalen Hurts was going to steal his job from right out under him. But now it's a change of scenery, a new light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully the light at the end of the tunnel is not death for quarterback Carson Wentz. Current underdog ADP 157.4. Carson Wentz in 12 games last season was quarterback 22-4 point, 22-6 point per passing touchdown leagues as well. 16.5 4-point per passing touchdown points per game and 19.2 6-point per passing touchdown points per game. From a points per game perspective, he was 22 in both. So Carson Wentz obviously didn't have a terrible season, but when people are expecting you to have top 10 potential and you get benched for Jalen Hurts, and you play like shit in a lot of the games, then you are obviously a very big disappointment fantasy football-wise. Last season, he had a grand total of 438 passing attempts, 2,616 passing yards, 16 total passing touchdowns. He also had a grand total of, where are his rushing yards? I apologize, 32 rushes for a grand total of, drumroll please, 275 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. So Carson Wentz can get a little bit mobile, but he's obviously not some super mobile quarterback. So with Carson Wentz and this change to Indianapolis, my hope is that he's on the new horizon. He is going to become the old Carson Wentz that was, getting those MVP chants before he tore his ACL up against the LA Rams. in that Super Bowl season. Shout out to 9-inch Nick Foles. That's the hope. The hope is that he's in a better offense with better wide receivers, with a better offensive line, and that helps him a ton, and with a better head coach than Doug Peterson, and with just maybe more confidence because he completely lost his confidence. But I am still not a guy that believes heavily in Carson Wentz's skill set. Now again, I have him ranked pretty high at quarterback 17 compared to kind of what I thought I would think of him, because you really have to put into perspective how good this offensive line is, how good the defense is, and the fact that the wide receivers are pretty solid. Michael Pittman, Zach Pascal, Patty Campbell, as well as T.Y. Hilton. So they have a pretty solid wide receiver core in Indianapolis. They have a great running back, obviously, in Jonathan Taylor, another good running back, as well in Marlon Mack. They also have Nyheim Hines, who's a pretty solid running back. So overall, they have a very, very solid team that Carson Wentz should sit pretty in. But there's still the worries that maybe Carson Wentz he's off his rocker, and he just won't be that guy anymore. That's why I have him ranked at 17. I think he has a lot of potential in Indianapolis, but again, just not really a Carson Wentz guy personally. At number 18, we have one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL, Ryan Fitzpatrick of the Washington football team, underdog ADP 150.8. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick, from a week-to-week basis, could actually easily finish as a top 10 quarterback some weeks, but there's also with the Fitzmagic, there's also the Fitztragic. There's also the shot that Ryan Fitzpatrick goes into the game and plays like complete and utter shit. The thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick is that when he's looked at as the backup, he rises to the occasion. He plays so well, but when he's the starting guy, he doesn't typically have the greatest of seasons. Obviously, a couple of years ago as the New York Football Jets starting quarterback, he was pretty solid, but that is a big worry of mine for Ryan Fitzpatrick, especially with such strong inconsistencies. He's really fun to stream, though, on a week-to-week basis, especially up against a bad defense. Ryan Fitzpatrick typically eats them for breakfast, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is also one of those guys who is extremely good at rushing the ball for no reason. This guy does not give a single fuck about being hit. He's basically like Derrick Henry at the quarterback position, but not Derrick Henry, because he's not built like Derrick Henry. He just puts his head down and just runs. And I saw it a lot as a Dolphins fan the last couple of years, where this guy gets the ball in his hand and he is looking to just do anything. He doesn't care if he gets hit. He doesn't care if he gets hurt. His main goal on the football field is to score points. That's why he makes these crazy, stupid fucking throws all the time, where he throws it into double coverage, because Ryan Fitzpatrick has a huge swinging fucking cock tied underneath his leg. He has to tie it around his leg because it doesn't fit in his jock strap. That's how Ryan Fitzpatrick plays, and that's why you see the shit games. That's also why you see the games where the guy goes to the fucking press conference wearing Deshaun Jackson's suit and he's wearing the glasses, because he's amazing. He's a fun quarterback. But just because he's fun doesn't mean he's necessarily great for fantasy. But he is great for fantasy, but he's going to have those shitty games. That's why he's quarterback number 18. In 9 games last year, he finished as quarterback 28 and 4-point, 28 and 6-point, which is what you should kind of expect out of a quarterback when they are not necessarily, given a bunch of starts. They're not going to finish very high, averaging 17 4-point per passing touchdown points per game and 19.9 6-point per passing touchdown points per game. From a points per game perspective, he was quarterback 20 and 4-point, tied with Mr. Derek Send in the Car and quarterback number 20 in 6-point per passing touchdown league. So with Ryan Fitzpatrick, he is going to an offense that does have some pretty solid weapons with Terry McLaurin, with Curtis Samuel, and with the new addition that they ended up drafting. I believe his name is Diami Brown. Out of UNC, they also have Antonio Gibson, and so they also have J.D. McKissick. So they have a pretty solid offense. They have a pretty strong defense, which is good for Fitzpatrick, because if he throws a bunch of interceptions, that maybe the defense could crawl him back into the game. But he also gets limited because a lot of Ryan Fitzpatrick's crazy points are when the defense sucks ass and I apologize for saying Tannehill a bunch of times, and Fitzpatrick just crawls his way back in the game doing all these crazy ass throws. So again, I like Fitzpatrick. There's a lot of upside, but week in, week out, this guy is as volatile as it gets. Last season, quarterback number 32 against New England. Then the next week, quarterback 13, quarterback 8, quarterback 12, quarterback 3, quarterback 13, quarterback 27, quarterback 7, quarterback 27. So he's kind of in, he's out, he's up, and he's down, but he should still finish as a top 20 quarterback and is definitely a super fun guy to have on your roster, even though that doesn't really mean shit for fantasy football. There's no points per having a fun quarterback league. Next up, we got a guy who will definitely finish ahead of where I have him ranked, but I have no interest in just drafting a guy that has zero upside. And that's Mr. You like that, Kirk Cousins of the Minnesota Vikings. Underdog ADP 147.5. This guy is the definition of a lame-o in the NFL. Kirk Cousins actually doesn't suck as bad as most people say he does, but he's just no fun. There's no upside. He's not going to finish as a top 5 guy. He's probably not even going to finish as a top 10 guy, especially if they run the ball a little more than they did last season. He finished as quarterback 11 and 4 point, quarterback 11 and 6 point as well, playing in all 16 games, averaging 19.1 4-point per passing touchdown points per game, and 23.5 6-point per passing touchdown points per game. From a points per game perspective, he was quarterback 13 and 4 point and 13 in 6 point. Now, he'll probably finish as a top 15 quarterback, so maybe ranking him this low is a bit inconsiderate, but drafting Kirk Cousins is basically just saying that you don't want upside at your quarterback position. You draft Kirk Cousins as the second quarterback on your roster at the end of the draft, because if my guy gets hurt, then I can put this schlub into my fucking lineup, this goofball in Kirk Cousins, and then you're just like, you know what, I got the points, and it is what it is. But there is going to be no weeks this season, likely, where Kirk Cousins puts the team on his back, Darren Sharper, hold my dick type of deal. That's never going to happen with Kirk Cousins. He's not the kind of guy that carries your fantasy team. He's the guy you put in your lineup, you get the points, and you hope your running backs, your wide receivers, spark it up like Snoop Dogg, and you win your game. So that's what I think about Kirk Cousins. I think that he's boring, but he's all right. He's all right. If he's my quarterback too, I'm fine with it, but I don't really see top 10, nowhere near top 5 potential with Mr. You Like That Kirk Cousins. Speaking of top 5 potential, closing out the top 20 again. We're doing 21, 22, and 23, and 24 after this, so make sure you stay tuned. Get some maybe popcorn, because we're in for the long haul. We're already like 28 minutes-ish into this video, so we're dragging along. But we got famous Jameis, steal yo crab, Jameis Winston, quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, underdog ADP 184.3. If I genuinely was being honest with you, Jameis Winston could finish as the number 1 overall quarterback in fantasy football, and it wouldn't surprise me. The reason why he's ranked so low is because of the immense risk. The risk in the fact that I believe Taysom Hill has blackmail over fucking Sean Payton. The fact that I think that things could turn sour super fast with Jameis Winston, where he throws a bunch of picks. But I think that LASIK Jameis Winston, after his LASIK surgery, is a new guy. He's a new quarterback. And this guy was great in Tampa Bay for fantasy, even if he threw fucking 6,000 interceptions. Just look at this shit. 2019, this guy was tearing it up. He had 626 attempts, 5,109 passing yards, 33 passing touchdowns, threw like 30 interceptions, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter because he was still so good. Now, I understand that Tampa had better weapons for Mr. Jameis Winston. They had Godwin, they had Evans. But Michael Thomas is pretty fucking good, and Kamara is pretty good to throw the ball to as well. So Jameis Winston does have a lot of upside, but it is scary to draft him, and it is hard for me to rank him inside the top 12, even though I think he could easily finish there because of Taysom Hill and Sean Payton's unbeknownst love for Taysom Hill. I love Jameis going into this year. I have a lot of high praise for Jameis Winston. I think that Jameis Winston actually has top 5 potential, and don't be surprised when Jameis tears it up, because I've talked about it so much, but I don't have the balls, I guess, to rank him high enough, because I'm just so worried about Taysom Hill. My other light finally turns on, because these lights are from fucking 1943 or something, because they turn on and off all the fucking time. It's like I'm fucking haunted in here, paranormal activity type of stuff. So sorry for cursing a bunch of times in a row. I know most of you guys don't care, but there are some comments where they say, please don't curse as much, and I apologize, but it's genuinely just how I talk. I ain't forcing it, just like Jameis Winston forces the ball towards the offense, to the defense. He throws to the water boy. He throws to everyone. He's like fucking Oprah Winfrey out there. Now, on to quarterbacks 21 through 24. 21, we have Justin Fields, and I think Justin Fields could be really good in Chicago and should be really good, but he's ranked outside of the top 20 because how are we supposed to know when Justin Fields is going to play? Underdog ADP 133.5. When are we supposed to know when Fields is going to play? We probably won't know. Could it be game 1? Yes. Could it be game 7? Yes. Could it be game never? Yes, but I think he will play next season. It's just about when he will play. If I'm being honest with you, I think the Chicago Bears will be pretty solid, and Justin Fields does have a lot of rushing ability, but his ranking is going to be limited outside of the top 20 unless we know that he's going to start week 1. Because then he can move on up. But until then, he's going to be sitting here at 21. There's not too much to talk about Justin Fields, right? The Bears trade up with the Giants to get this pick, to get Justin Fields. So they clearly wanted Justin Fields, but we don't know how bad they want him to play this season. So that's kind of where it's tough to talk about Mr. Justin Fields. Last year, plays in 8 games at The Ohio State University, 225 passing attempts, 2,100 passing yards, 70% completion percentage, 22 touchdowns, 6 INTs, and 386 rushing yards, and 385 rushing yards, 383 rushing yards, and 5 total touchdowns. 2019, at 21 years old, his sophomore season at The Ohio State, he throws for 41 passing touchdowns, just 3 INTs, 3,273 passing yards, has a great season. He's a good quarterback. The question is, when will he play? That's really all it is with Justin Fields. At number 22, we have Derek Carr, underdog ADP 189.7 of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, every single fucking offseason, everyone devalues Mr. Derek Carr. Everyone ranks him outside of the top 25, and he always finishes inside the top 20. In 16 games last year, he finished as quarterback 13 and 4-point and quarterback 14 and 6-point, averaging 17 4-point per passing touchdown points per game and 20.4 6-point per passing touchdown points per game. From a points per game perspective, he was quarterback 20 and 4-point, tied with Mr. Ryan Fitzmagic, and quarterback 18 in 6-point per passing touchdown point league. So obviously, Carr's offense isn't the best, right? No super big wide receivers there. They get rid of Nelson Aguilar. They bring in John Brown. They have Henry Ruggs. They have Darren Waller, who's a big target monster, obviously probably the best wide receiver on that team. They have Josh Jacobs. They have Kenyon Drake. So they're a pretty solid team. But Derek Carr has not shown the Derek Carr of whatever year that was where he got hurt. And he was playing really well. And he could have won the MVP. He's never played up to that season. I don't remember exactly the year. It was so long ago at this point. Maybe it was 2016, 2015, something like that. But he's still good. He's not a shitty quarterback. And their offensive line did get kind of derailed, which worries me. That's why I kind of have him at 22. Otherwise, I'd probably put him as a top 20 quarterback because he probably will finish that high. But with the worries of the offensive line, I'm being a little bit passive on Mr. Derek Carr. 517 passing attempts last year, 4,102 passing yards, 11th highest at quarterback, 27 passing touchdowns, 11th highest at quarterback, and the 14th best protection rate for his offensive line, which should be lower this year because they really dismantled that offensive line. Again, Derek Carr's nothing special. I don't think he has that great season that he had all those years ago in him again, but I still think that Derek Carr's an all-right quarterback. Next up, we got Danny Fumbles, Danny Jones, quarterback of the New York Football Giants, underdog ADP 165. Daniel Jones. If this guy somehow figures out how to not fumble and throw interceptions, then he'll be good. But will he be able to figure that out? I don't know. I do not know. That's why he's quarterback 23. 14 games, finished as quarterback 24 and 4-point, 24 and 6-point, averaging 12.9 4-point per passing touchdown points per game, 14.4 6-point per passing touchdown points per game. From a points per game perspective, he was 32 and 4-point, 34 and 6-point. What upside do people really see in Daniel Jones? It's the rushing upside, right? But he sucks because he's going to throw all these interceptions. He's going to do all these fumbles. That was a fucking stupid sentence. But yeah, I don't see the upside in Daniel Jones. I really don't. But with Kenny Golladay there, he's probably just going to be a safer option. This is Daniel Jones' do-or-die season. If Daniel Jones sucks this season, then he's done as the Giants quarterback, in my opinion. 2019 gets drafted, looks pretty good in some of those games. 2020 doesn't look very good. 2021, this is his time to prove it. But I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think he's going to prove all that much. He had a grand total of 449 passing attempts. He had 11 passing touchdowns, 2,935 passing yards. He had 24 interceptable passes, 38 danger plays, a zillion fumbles, zillion interceptions. Like, sure, his rushing is pretty good, right? 65 carries, 7th most at quarterback, 1 rushing touchdown. He had how many rushing yards? He had 423, 6th highest at quarterback. So he's all right. But again, with all these other struggles, how can he be really good? He actually threw 10 interceptions last season to just 11 touchdowns. So I don't really see too much upside in Daniel Jones. Some people talk themselves into Danny Fumbles, but I don't like it. At number 24, to close out the video, we got Baker, touchdown maker, quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Underdog ADP 150.4. 26 years young, out of Baker Mayfield. The reason why he's ranked so low, I actually think he's a good NFL quarterback, but he's not a great fantasy quarterback because the Kevin Stefanski-led Cleveland Browns like to run the ball gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream. And when you're a quarterback, you want to be throwing the ball for fantasy points. In real life, he's happy handing the ball off. He's happy finishing as quarterback 17 last year in 4-point, quarterback 16 and 6-point, playing in 16 games. Finishing as quarterback 26 and 4-point in passing or in points per game. Quarterback 23 and 6-point in points per game. Tied with Goff at 23 and 6-point. He's going to be all right. But they're going to run the ball too much for his upside to be high enough for me to want to draft him. Again, his stats are pretty solid. He throws the ball 486 times, 17th most at quarterback. I wouldn't even be surprised if that went down. 3,560 passing yards, 18th highest. 26 passing touchdowns, 12th highest. His touchdowns can't ever really be super high because when they get in the red zone, you just hand it to Chubb, you hand it to Hunt, and you score a touchdown. It's that simple. And with the fact that Odell has been struggling, with the fact that they don't have the greatest wide receiver core, I don't see any upside in Baker Mayfield, and that is why he finishes dead last in the rankings, quarterback 24. But there's obviously guys, some schlubs behind him, ranked 25 through 32. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying this video at any point, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. I love each and every single one of you guys. Make sure you stay safe. As always, have a great rest of your guys' day. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave a comment. Good boy!